more on the Trump-DeSantis twists and turns coming up in just a moment. But first, let's go back to Capitol Hill and this explosive hearing with Alejandro Mayorkas and a Senate committee yesterday. For more, let's welcome in commentary editor for the Washington Times, Kelly Sadler, and political analyst and best-selling author Mark Halperin. Great to have you both on. Happy Wednesday. We made it to Hump Day. Kelly, I want to start with you. This is a little bit more of Alejandro Mayorkas with Josh Hawley at that hearing yesterday. Take a listen.
What we do is we enforce the law. But let me just say this.
But you're not.
It is stunning to me, stunning, to hear you say that the prior administration reunited children with their parents.
Oh, I see. So this is their fault?
When in fact,
you're not going to take any responsibility for the indentured servitude and exploitation of children that is happening on your watch. A moment ago, you were crowing about the fact that you treated children so well, and yet we find tens of thousands of children who are forced to work as slaves because of your policies, and you turn around and blame a prior administration. Mr. Secretary, this is par for the course for you. You do it every time you appear before this committee. You do it every time you appear before Congress. I, for one, am sick and tired of it, and thousands of children are in physical danger because of what you are doing. You should have resigned long ago, and if you cannot change course, you should be removed.
Kelly, I'll tell you what, he's good.
Yeah.
He's good. I thought he was going to run for president. Maybe not. Maybe not. Doesn't seem like he will. At some point, I think Josh Hawley runs for president. But how many times are we going to do this before the House actually acts and moves forward with articles to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas?
Well, Mayorkas is back up on Capitol Hill today. So articles of impeachment look like they might be moving forward from the GOP side. There is a dereliction of duty when it comes to the southern border. And it was the New York Times reporting, explosive reporting about all these children that are being trafficked across the border and then put into basically child labor. And then there was a new report by the New York Times saying that the administration, the Biden administration, knows of this and tried to bury it and tried to not draw attention to it and cover it up, if you will. So there's a lot to answer for coming from DHS. And the border numbers, they're still very, very high, unprecedentedly high. There's no enforcement in terms of anything down at the southern border. So Mayorkas should be held responsible and should be impeached.
Yeah, remember, Mark, with AOC when she went down there during the Trump administration, and said kids in cages. I don't see her talking about what's happening right now with these kids. I want to play you some more sound, though, Mark. This is Mayorkas with Mitt Romney.
In terms of the security of America's southern border, is it an A or an F? Where do you grade it?
Senator,
I'm looking for a letter.
Senator, it's not so straightforward.
Well, sure it is. We know how many people are coming across. Are we doing a great job, or is it like still failing?
Senator, the issue of addressing the root causes is not exclusive.
I have a question, which is, can you grade how secure our southern border is, an A through an F?
Senator, we are dedicating our resources to achieve the maximum possible effect of them.
Well, are we succeeding? Is it an A or is it B, a D? Where are we in terms of the number of people coming across the border? For instance, we have gaps in a wall. It's like, why wouldn't you want to just complete the wall, for Pete's sakes?
Mark, I mean, I think that his strategy is to just avoid the question. This isn't the first time he wouldn't answer the question. Rob and I were just talking about it. It's a little surprising to even hear this come from Mitt Romney, but why can't he answer this question?
Allison asked me to grade the quality of his answer.
What's your grade, Mark?
That's an F?
I give that an F. Yeah. Look, the politics of immigration are very complicated. The substance, the policy is not. This policy has failed. Joe Biden overpromised to the left in running for president. He's not figured out how to balance America's security with our desire to be a welcoming nation. And that's why you see every Republican senator from Mitt Romney to Josh Hawley and lots of House Republicans saying this is inadequate, and lots of Democrats saying it is too. Joe Biden doesn't like to fire people. He doesn't believe in that, particularly, and ironically, when they're under siege for not performing. And so, unfortunately, I think he won't be impeached.
Which, by the way, Mark, that's a foolish policy. This whole thing, I remember you mentioned that right when Joe Biden took office and we started talking about Jen Psaki, who, by the way, was effective at her job, given the new alternative in Karine Jean-Pierre. But this whole thing that Joe Biden doesn't fire anybody, I hear that same thing parroted on some of the other networks. And I just, you know what I think that is? I think that's foolish. And I think the way that it's said is that it's somehow noble. Certain people need to be let go. Certain people need to be let go. Alejandro Mayorkas is one of them. Now, look, if the House moves to impeach him, Kelly, if the House moves to impeach Mayorkas, it's not going to go anywhere in the Senate, but it's going to be a huge symbolic victory for Republicans who need a victory after really rough elections last November. Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, Rob, you're assuming, though, that Joe Biden doesn't like the job that Mayorkas is doing. Mayorkas is doing the job that Joe Biden wants him to do. So there is no firing involved, and Mayorkas just needs to, take heat from the Hill every time he goes up there to testify. But they know what they're doing. It's blame the prior administration, the Trump administration. Always go back to the children in cages. Don't answer questions on why the wall isn't being built. We have the supplies. It's been paid for, but there is zero construction. Title 42 will be lifted soon, and there's going to be a flood of migrants coming across the southern border. There is no policy. There is no plan for that. This is Joe Biden's. This is his policy. Open borders is his policy, and Mayorkas is executing it.
Mark?
Yeah, Mark, just, to Kelly's point, he's blaming the Trump administration for this. The numbers don't lie.
I didn't mean to suggest that Joe Biden's unwillingness to fire people who don't perform was noble. I think, as you do, Rob, it's a defect masquerading as a positive attribute. Republicans and the public have done their best, and some Democrats, to try to get Joe Biden to focus on the failure of his border policy. And unfortunately, it's not happening. It may have to wait for the presidential year for a skillful Republican presidential nominee to really paint the contrast to the American people.
Yeah, that's a quick final thought on this whole Mayorkas thing. And we do the same thing with Pete Buttigieg. If you go back to Harry Truman when he won his last election, everyone counted him out against Tom Dewey. He ran on something called the Do Nothing Congress. Wasn't true at all. But he ran against a Republican-controlled Congress that he dubbed the Do Nothing Congress. The media picked it up, and he got himself reelected. So fine, all these hearings are great, but the only people, you think these sound bites are being played over on MSNBC, Mark, this morning, or CNN this morning? I'll tell you what, they're not. So it's fine for us to reinforce what people already know about Alejandro Mayorkas, but if the rest of America's not hearing about it, Joe Biden could win again in 2024 running on a do-nothing Congress that does nothing but hold hearings. Why not just move forward, Mark, and impeach Alejandro Mayorkas, even if it's symbolic?
Well, I think he might be impeached. He won't, as you said before, someone said he won't be convicted, but the House might impeach him. And I think the answer he gave yesterday, including to the answer to Senator Romney, I think will be fuel for that fire.
I think so, too. Mitt Romney. I mean, heck, this guy was an ally a year ago. Look at what he was saying yesterday. By the way, very simple to give a grade, even if you give it like a D- or a D+. Okay? Right, Mark? Doesn't have to be an F.
Yeah. Can we hear like 15 seconds from Allison on the concert?
It was amazing.
I'd rather have more than 15 seconds to pick. Where were you sitting? Were you sitting in the arena, by the way? You looked like you were like...
We were high up. I mean, we were pretty high up. But
you can see it, though.
We could see it, and we danced the whole time for 3 hours.
Oh, we
danced.
What was like the highlight?
There was so many, Mark. Actually, probably the best was when she started, because it was like amazing. Everyone was screaming. The whole stadium was filled. Lots of and all ages. It was young girls to grandmas.
Is it true that Taylor repeatedly looked directly at you? That's what I've heard.
She did. She waved. She said hi.
I heard that. All right, we will pick this conversation up, the Taylor Swift conversation.
Yes.
At the top of the next hour.
So jealous.
Good start. Mark, Kelly, we'll see you in a little bit. Let's welcome Alex Kramer, and she's got